Ravish, my man, how are you?
I am good. How about you?
Which part of the world are you at right now?
I am in Charlotte right now. How about
And
you?
what's the weather like? Is it spring weather yet or is it summer yet? What does it feel like?
I think the weather is somewhere in between. It keeps changing. Uh, but I'm glad that the cold is away. I think I'm not made for East Coast cold for sure.
You were in the San Francisco Bay Area, correct? Until
Yeah,
recently?
I was in the Bay Area. I spent almost 4 months in the Bay Area, and then I think, I was so much into Bay Area that I decided I will completely come out of Bay Area, came into a place called Charlotte where there is no significance of, Bay Area, and just trying to maintain my calm and, not feeling the FOMO which has happened due to AI.
Let me ask you something. That may be a good question to start with. So you left the Bay Area to go out because you wanted to get out of the treadmill, I'm assuming, because the Bay Area is a little bit of a pressure cooker in some senses, right? How does it feel leaving the Bay Area, going to Charlotte, where I'm assuming there's not that much AI technology, speech, even in coffee shops in Palo Alto, I would have everybody, open their laptop and show something, but that's not happening in Charlotte, is it?
Yeah, that's not happening. So I think there were two, three reasons moving out of Bay Area. I think I was exploring what to do next, like figuring out a lot of problem statements, and I realized that, Bay Area is like not the best place to find problem statements. Like there are a lot of solution builders there. So I think if you want to find problem statement, you would want to move out of Bay Area. And once you've figured out problem statement, it might make sense to come back to Bay Area. So I think that was like one idea. And I think in secondly in Bay Area, because there's so much of, I would say, noise, and I also mean, good noise as well as bad noise. So it's very
Mm-hmm.
hard to concentrate specifically when you're looking out, right? Everything feels so glittery. You feel like a kid in the candy shop. So I think I also realized that maybe stepping back a little would help me, maybe look inside and, really, really look at the problems that I am genuinely excited about rather than, what's trending or, what's the next big thing. So I think those are the two things. And obviously, cheaper rent and great food as you move towards the East Coast. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very, very good. Now, one of the things that we were talking about just before this was your use of AI and how you've changed from being someone that would not code that frequently to completely using vibe coding tools such as Cursor, Windsurf, Replit, and there are a whole host of them. So, walk me through first off. You don't have a coding background, or do you? You're more of a GTM guy.
Yeah, I am more of a GTM guy. Like I have been engineer by education, so I did that basic C++ course that every engineer has to do once they get into the degree. But yeah, nothing beyond that. Interestingly, I've tried learning coding 3 times and dropped all that 3 times. I think this is the fourth time, and I feel that I'm more successful than all the 3 times combined. Yeah, but my primary professional identity has been more of a GTM guy.
Got it. So then in the last few months, you're saying you're using a lot more of these tools, learning how to be able to code, and you're also doing some projects now for people, paid projects to be able to use vibe coding and do that. Walk me through first off, what are you using them for? How did you pick them up? How did you start learning? Walk me through what your thinking was. So people that have never coded before can say, okay, all right, I understand what he's doing. Here's how he's doing it. Maybe they can pick it up as well.
Sure. So I think if you look about my tooling journey, I think I started with simply, first of all, like switching between Chat GPT and VS Code. Like I will ask Chat GPT, hey, I want to build it, then do a copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. And that's where I started. And to be honest, that was good, but like setting up backend was really frustrating. Like front end and the touch and feel of the app really, really comes out very quickly. But if you want to deploy it, it doesn't really go beyond just your server. So that's where I was figuring out a tool that can really take me and ease a lot of my backend stuff. So I think that's where I discovered Replit. Was recently launched at that time, and I loved that how you just have to enter one super base key and the whole database kind of gets
Correct.
sets up. So I think that is what I did, and then I was kind of excited, and that kind of also made me confident that maybe backend is not such a big task. Like, I understand it's a naive thinking, but yeah, I realized that I can be comfortable with backend, and that kind of made me switch to cursor because I wanted more control over my apps, right? Like what's happening at the back, can I pull APIs and all of that. So that's where I think I moved to cursor. And I think initially I was real because I was literally vibe coding like enter, enter, accept, accept, accept. So I think I enjoyed cursor for a bit, but then I realized that cursor also makes you lazy at times, because when you're copy pasting from GPT back to VS Code, you at least use some of your brain, eyes, and other
Yeah, yeah.
senses to see what's going. But in cursor, you are actually just vibing with it. So I think that's where I switched back to saying that I will just use cursor as an IDE, and maybe some small chatting, but I will not ask cursor to write code. Instead, I would go back to a Claude and GPT so that I can do a lot more chatting around that piece of code. And I think that's
Walk me through that. Just walk me through that. So what you're saying is a little bit different, right? What you're saying is previously, what I would do is all of my code was generated by ChatGPT. Now I use exclusively Windsurf and Replit.
cursor.
That's it, right? Completely on top of that. It's on VS Code, makes it easy, deployed. Superbase is my backend, so everything is well equivalent to what you would call a Postgres database. Same thing, but building apps, simple apps that allow, and not just simple. Some of them are good prototypes. I've actually integrated completely with the LinkedIn front end, be able to send messages on LinkedIn. All that you can get done in
Exactly.
hours.
Exactly. Like, you can just generate all of these things like in.
Give me an example. One of the projects that you've done.
So I think I've done a lot of projects, from building like a AI dating Tinder game where you swipe AI, AI profiles and then talk to them, and it like simulate dating. So I think these are all more projects on the crazy side. I think on the work side, I have done a couple of projects. For example, one of my biggest problem when I was a founder was hiring, right? How do you hire the best folks? And there are two ways to do it, like inbound and outbound hiring. So in inbound hiring, you get a lot of applications on LinkedIn, but then it is kind of really, really tough to select, shortlist those applications on LinkedIn. So what I did was I created a LinkedIn scraper, which would kind of scrape all those applications for me, give me in an Excel file. Then I can upload that Excel file on ChatGPT and literally chat with my candidate profile. So I think that was something that really, really, worked for me. And I was really happy that I could do it because when I was the founder, I actually spent almost 2 to 3 hours doing just this manual task whenever hiring for a certain position was on. So I think that's one thing. Similarly, there was an outreach tool that I made, which would, pick your LinkedIn profile and create a super personalized message for you, and that it's coming from Ravish, and Ravish wants to hire you for able jobs. So how your profile fits able jobs. So I think that was something I feel was one of the saner projects which I would also use myself.
Got it. So you went to LinkedIn, you got a bunch of people that applied. You pulled that into a spreadsheet. You put that into ChatGPT. You asked questions, interacted. Same thing that I have done, right? I just downloaded all the PDF files from LinkedIn. They
Yeah,
applied.
upload.
I gave it to ChatGPT and I put it together. That's the same thing. Then you ask questions, then it sends a message back on LinkedIn, things of that
Right.
nature. Have you used it for building prototypes? You also told me that one of the things that you are doing right now is working for a company to be able to do a paid project on vibe coding. What does that look like? What is that project and what are you doing for them?
Sure. So I think since I was like doing vibe coding now for 4 months, I figured out, why not try and make some money out of it. So, think of yourself as a product manager plus plus, but, techie minus minus. So can you pick up small internal use cases,
Correct.
is which is not like which will never make it to the tech team bandwidth, like it will never make it to the sprint, but you still want to kind of get it done. So for example, I started with building voice agents. So a lot of product managers have to do survey calls, or customer support folks have to do post journey or post order experience kind of calls. So I brought a couple of things together like 11 labs, Twilio, Plivo, and and again some of the vibe coding stuff to create like a very duct tape kind of a solution that you can upload some numbers, it will call and it will, fill a form for you. So I think that's one kind of thing that I built. When I was building these things, I realized that, this company that I'm consulting, which happens to be a retail chain, also need a lot of image intelligence, right? Like they click image around their stores, around, how people dress up, like because these are all normal compliance and you want to give the best experience to your customers. So they want to ensure that, all these compliances are being followed. So then again created a lot of image intelligence where you end up, giving a prompt, and you get intelligence around that image, whether your store executive is dressing up well or not, whether they look professionally or not, whether a rack in a store is empty or not. So I think all of these projects, again, very small single use cases project, very limited to a certain team's pain point. So I'm kind of just building them, hosting locally, and then giving them reports daily so that they can run their operations smoothly.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So now let me ask you a different question. Are you using it for content creation, content generation, any of that, the GTM work that you used to do before? Are you using it for any of that? Or are you just completely now heads down in the coding side?
So I think I am using it for GTM, but I think for GTM I am kind of using it separately. So I think I am doing a lot more research. Like for GTM, I've been primarily using deep research to, bring a database together of, folks that I want to reach out. And then once I get their contact number or email, I would use this one of the voice agents to kind of dial those numbers and then see, how many people picked up the call. Are there any leads that I can personally reach out to? So I'm kind of using here and then, but right now, to be honest, I really don't have any specific GTM use case as well. So these are like, just a couple of my projects that I end up doing on the sides. But yeah, I
Got
think
it.
one quick use case around GTM that came in is I like just last week I made my first AI ad live, right? So I created this AI ad, using Heygen and caption, and we were getting $35 as a CAC before we made that AI ad live. And after that AI ad was live, our CAC came down to $15. And I wouldn't have read like made the CAC less than half by any optimization in the world, and a simple AI ad took me there. And completely I just spent I think 3 4 hours building like making that AI ad, but it kind of reduced the CAC by 50%. It was such a great win last week.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Are you seeing a lot more use cases where you will continue to use it? Or are you seeing there are some limitations? What are the limitations you're seeing now that you're using Cursor? I want to talk about that, right? So you're using Cursor in combination with VS Code, or you're using it just standalone?
No, I'm just using I'm using Cursor as an IDE, and mostly I would chat with my code on ChatGPT because the idea is kind of more to be actively on the top of the code that is being written by AI, and not just like be a manager, accept and reject, accept and reject. I think that's first idea. In my experience with maybe dealing with ad making through AI or voice agents through AI or maybe also coding through AI, I've realized that these are good for smaller use cases right now. For example, if you look at
Small
voice agents,
projects.
yeah, small projects. So if you look at voice agents, I think voice agents are good for, let's say, 2 to 2.5 minutes of a call, right? If the call is stretching for 5 6 minutes, then the person will not be interested in talking to a AI voice agent, right? Similarly, with video, it is really really good for ads, right, where your attention span is short. But if you're doing organic, then these videos might not make sense because the whole AI bit will be in front and people would not want to engage with AI content. So I think right now what I feel that they are good for like 30 to 40% of use cases, but they're really good for those use cases. But
Mm,
beyond that, I think you still need that specialization, whether it comes to sales through phone calls, whether it comes creative work like ad generation or even writing code.
got it. Got it. Yeah, no, I think the interesting part that I'm starting to see that I'm using myself for, right? I don't have enough time to be able to build the project, but man, vibe coding just completely changes. You know, the thing that is interesting to me, vibe coding creates code that is not easily readable by me, but it's very easily readable by the machine. So you're creating
True.
code for the machine to learn, not so much for you to learn, right? You're like, I want the output. This is the front end is super easy to do. It's HTML, CSS, which I hated to do. now is super easy to do with vibe coding. The middle layer, I think to a large extent, I'm still trying to figure out what is the best way to structure it to give the right kind of prompts. Database, super simple. It's become just ridiculously simple to build a complete, fully functional, even on something like a NoSQL database, much, much easier with
True.
vibe coding than before.
Yeah, I think you can churn out complete projects in a day, which I believe 6 years before when I started my first startup would require you to maybe do a week of coding to kind of get that live.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me a little bit about now that you're doing some of these projects. One of the interesting questions to me has always been, is there a way to be able to build this so that people can, do you think the opportunity exists in Cursor, Replit to be able to teach people how to use it, or is it more to actually build some of these things for them?
So I think so right now when I'm engaging with these companies, one of the major concerns of leadership and I also have a lot of founder friends around is that their team is not using AI. So I think, but what I've also learned is that using AI is more about intent and maybe the initial learning curve rather than teaching, right? Because I think one analogy that I really give to all the people who are finding it hard to use AI is like using AI is like managing your first mentee or your first team member, right? When you
Yeah,
quickly
yeah, yeah.
become from IC to a manager, you really struggle a lot. Like you always feel that, hey, why should I teach this person for 2 hours when I can do this work for
10 minutes.
in 30 minutes, right? So I think managing AI is in similar way that, right? That when you start using it, you will really, really feel frustrated. You will find no value to it, but once you overcome that valley, right, once you learn how to make people do work or ask teach people that, hey, these are the three things I want, and then suddenly your calendar gets free and your team is more productive and you are delivering more. I think that's where AI is, right? Once you cross that valley, then AI is yeah, your team member, your intern, or your like the fresh college graduate that you can give a lot of work, is enthusiastic about it, will get you done, and then you can simply brush it up, and hopefully what you want to deliver is ready. So I think
Absolutely.
I just give all also to all the people who are in their 30 40s. I just give them this analogy that think of it just as your first management experience, and that's how you use AI.
That's a good way to think about it. That's actually a very, very good way to think about it overall. The other question I have, maybe the last question that we can wrap up with is, when you look at a lot of people that are learning these things right now, using AI for coding or for generation, obviously the number of people that are developers we're going to need in terms of developers should reduce simply because AI is generating a lot more code. Does that make it easier for more people to develop, do you think, or does it make it that we will require fewer people working?
So I think, to be honest, I'm still wondering, what the answer will be. But I think one thing that I have recently realized is that the world needs more code. The world needs more automation. I think I fundamentally believe that as humans, we are born to be creative, right? As we grow older, right, we get into maybe jobs or professions that becomes monotonous, but we are fundamentally creative beings by nature. So I think AI empowers everyone to kind of maybe write code or build automation so that they can get out of the monotonicity of their job or work that they hate and focus on the creative part. So I believe that there will be more builders, and people who use this will again through their own creative through their creative wisdom will unlock more value for them and for the world if they use AI correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. This was terrific, Ravish. It was great talking to you. I'm glad we got connected. I will continue to keep in touch to be able to talk a little bit more about how people use LLMs and AI in general and their work and everything else. Yesterday I was talking to another guy who showed me the system prompt, the input prompt, and the output. So he's training the LLM to give him an output the way he wants it, and he's creating guardrails. Some people call it removing hallucinations, right? He's like, this is the system prompt. This is my prompt. I want you to give me an output. I want you to give it me in this format. So he's being very defined. It's very similar to what you do with an intern, you just said, right? The intern can go
Right.
all over the map. You tell them, go write a document. They'll write whatever they want, or what they'll write, what they know. They might write a school report type of a, like, no, no, no. Here's the example. Here is my question. Here's the process I want you to follow to get to the answer. So it's pretty good. I think overall, I like it very much. Thank you, Ravish. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mukund. It was lovely chatting with you.